Hey y'all, it's your girl Narosha, aka Cindy, and we're here to do episode 1 of 6 on my Oxford journey. Today we're going to be focusing on how I got into Oxford for the first time and why I decided to withdraw just months before the course started. Actually, I was applying to my master's while in the undergraduate 4th final year for myself, while being part-time worker, full-time student, doing all of the extracurriculars and volunteer work. It was quite the year ahead of me, and I don't think there was enough resources or support for students, that are going through that process, especially first generation students that have no idea what grad school looks like, no idea what funding opportunities look like, and they're really in it on their own. And especially for people that want to study abroad, I found a lot of the services were there for students that want to study in Canada, but if you want to study abroad, you were very much on your own to figure out what that looked like. So for me, I had it set in stone. I was only applying to schools in the UK. It's where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And Oxford and Cambridge were actually on a separate list from my main list of schools because I genuinely thought they were unattainable, and I genuinely were not considering them as my top choices because I never thought they'd ever become choices for me. And for me, I always had, my family, I had my mentors be like, Narosha, Oxford and Cambridge, Oxford and Cambridge. And I'm just like, y'all are really gonna be disappointed the day I get back that rejection letter. Like, in my head, I was like, they're telling me to apply, and I didn't want to apply because I was like, I didn't want to get the rejection. That was honestly, I was like, I don't want to deal with that and then having to go and tell them I didn't get in. But everyone was like, you gotta apply. So I was like, I'm gonna try, but in the back of my head, I had already almost written it off. So the application for Oxford actually was taking place in October for me because it was the first round, and as an international student, they recommend that you apply in the first round. So that required a CV, a personal statement, 2 sample writing pieces that were like 4,000 words, and reference letters, I think about 3. So threw it all together, and I'm gonna do another video about how I wrote my personal statement, what to do for reference and letters and CVs, and any advice and tips I got along the way. So I don't know if this is the case for everyone in terms of like how their schools operate, but at least for mine, in your 3rd year of university, in my program, there weren't any essays that had 4,000 word requirements. It all happened in your 4th year. And I was at the start of my 4th year and I hadn't written any essays yet. Luckily, I did take a 4th year course in my 3rd year, and I did have one other seminar specialized course that I took that had an essay that was over 4,000 words. So I only had 2 pieces of writing to my name that were over 4,000 words, and those are the 2 that I submitted because I literally had nothing else. And between those 2 months, I did not have the capability to write 2 brand new essays to meet that requirement. So I submitted what I had. I didn't really have a choice from multiple essays. It was just the only 2 I had. So put it all together and I submitted it. I'm pretty sure I submitted it like a few hours before the deadline because knowing me, I procrastinate on everything. And later that week, I got an email from Oxford and I was like, what? So soon? But it was just a survey and they were just like, let us know what your experience was like using like the application process. So I was like, okay. It says 8 weeks I should have a decision. So in my head, I was like, by Christmas, I'll know if I got in or not. So, back burner. 3 weeks later, I literally am up at 5 in the morning, submitting a final paper. And all of a sudden we get like a little chime and I look and I see mail came in from Oxford on my email. And I'm just sitting there like, another survey. When I open it, there's a PDF saying that there's a decision made, and I have to open that, and I'm literally like covering my eyes, peeking, and I'm like, okay, do I open it? Do I not? 5 in the morning, right? I open the PDF, I look, and it says accepted. Screaming, crying, doing the whole thing, like thanking the Lord at 5 in the morning, probably woke up everybody. I call my parents right away, and I'm just like, wake up, wake up. So my mom, she goes, she runs, she wakes up my dad. She's like, wake up, something happened. And they're both like, what's going on? I'm like, guess who got into Oxford? And then my mom's jumping up and screaming. And my dad's like, very good. That's very good. I'm just like, all right. So we're all just happy in our own way. And, I just taken that moment of, I had mad imposter syndrome of I would never get into this school. No possibility. What am I doing? Applying. And I got in. And I was literally trying to take in all of that at that moment. It was such an amazing day. But what I did after that, I don't want to say I regret, but it was a mistake, and I've learned from that mistake. After I got into Oxford, I stopped there. I didn't apply to any other program, any other school. Anything that had to do with masters, I was like, nah, I don't need to. I already got into my master's. I know where I'm going next year. I don't need to stress about this part of life anymore. I can focus on my fourth year, maintaining the grades I need to keep my offer, and, you know, finishing up what I'm meant to do on this campus. And I completely kind of moved myself away from the graduate world because I was like, I'll deal with it when that time comes. So definitely something, and I'll talk in my future videos about why that was a very poor decision of me to stop there. I did also do it because financially I was like, I just paid to apply to the school. Why would I pay to apply to other schools when I will always choose Oxford over anything else? Very narrow-minded, one school, one program. I am done the graduate hunt, like that's it. And so for me, I went through the next 2 semesters just kind of like focusing on my fourth year and everything I wanted to achieve. One of the biggest things that was funding. I didn't know what I was looking for, didn't know where to look, not a lot of resources or people to talk to that had done it before, so I didn't really do too much. I'll be honest, I missed a couple deadlines, I'm pretty sure. And you know, what it came down to was me saying, I'll probably get something from the university. And that's genuinely in my head. I was like, the university doesn't really announce all their funding until like April, May. So by then I'll know what my situation's like. And in Canada, it's quite common when you get a graduate offer, you get funding with it. Especially you can get packages where you can be like a TA. They almost pay you to do the degree sometimes. So there's so many options if you're studying within Canada. So to go international, it's like something will work itself out. They'll come back to me. And April, May comes, I'm done my program at my undergrad, and I don't get any scholarships or any funding. And I sat there and I remember just like so much of beating myself up and saying, you know, maybe if I had just done a little better, if my grades were better, if I had focused more and I didn't do so much extracurriculars, like if I had, you know, the 4.0, maybe then I could have gotten the scholarships. And so I was really hard on myself about not getting any kind of scholarships. Until I came to the conclusion of like, okay, I'm gonna just have to take out loans. If I want Oxford, I'm gonna have to make sacrifices for Oxford. So with OSAP, which is the Ontario Student Loans for my province in Canada, they only give you a very, very small limited amount, especially for grad school and especially because you're going overseas. So I'm not entitled to the usual amount where it could probably cover all of my tuition, or at least a good portion of it. It was the very minimum. So that was not really gonna put a dent in what I needed to pay. And my program was $60,000 and it was a 2-year program, and 2 years would be a total of like $120,000. Definitely a lot of money, definitely money I did not have in sight. So the way that the student line of credits work here is if you want a professional line of credit, you have to be going to a professional graduate program like law school, med school, things like that. I did not qualify for that, therefore I could not get a large loan on my own. I had to go with a student line of credit that was co-signed by somebody else. And to co-sign means that this person can be your guarantor. So if I can't pay my loans, that person's responsibility is to pay my loans. And it's because of being a student and the liability that comes with that. So obviously, single income family, only person I can take with me to kind of be a guarantor at that point is my father. So we both go into the bank and we're like, you know, we're here to get a student line of credit. And they're just like, no, unfortunately it can't work. Because for my dad, being the only provider for the household and carrying all of that financial weight, he didn't have a strong enough case to take on another loan, which was mine. And it was really, really tough to have gone through, and we went to multiple banks and it was the same situation. And it was so discouraging. Every time I had my hopes up, like, okay, this is the bank, this is the one that's gonna give us the money. And it was like, nope, nope, nope. And I was just like, I worked so hard to get to where I am right now. I never thought I could have this opportunity in front of me. And I'm ready to take out the loans and do the work to pay it back. And you're telling me you won't even consider giving it to me because of my family's financial situation. It was really, really tough to be in that position because it was one that not a lot of people could understand or relate to, or at least people that did understand, no one really talks about it. No one really has conversations about, you know, financial inaccessibility to higher education. So for me, I was still being pretty optimistic, positive, like I'll find a way, until my mom said to me, "Are you sure you want to go?" And I just remember crying. Like, I broke down crying because that was the first time since November 2018 when I got into June 2019. That's the first time in that whole time that somebody had said to me, "Are you sure?" This whole time I have had this idea of I'm going to Oxford. Everyone around me knows I'm going to Oxford. And all of a sudden, I'm being asked if I'm sure. And I was like, what do you mean am I sure? I was like, how could I not go? How could I get into Oxford and not go? Like, I just don't understand how one does that. And it was just one of these things where I was just like, I just did not want to hear it. I was rejecting it. But also, I think the reason why it hurt so much to hear was because I had been feeling it for a while now, that there was a possibility I may not go next year. And this was the first time I was finally admitting it. And my mom, incredibly supportive, was like, listen, if this is what you truly want, we will stand by you. We will find a way. Like, you know, like if this is what you want, but you're the one that's going to have to pay the loans. You're the one that's going to have to, you know, go through all of this and go through these 2 years. Is this what you want? So I'm sitting there like making, you know, a life decision in my hand, being like, do I want this? Or like, do I turn down Oxford? It was a whole hot mess of me on my bedroom floor crying. And multiple days of going back and forth, literally just going back and forth with ideas. I was seeking out advice from people that were in the program, people that had graduated from the program, people that were in the field I wanted to get into. And it was hard because I was getting a lot of people saying like, why go all the way to Oxford? Why spend all that money and put yourself through that? Like, just go to school in Canada. You can get the same thing here in Canada. And it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I knew that. Of course I knew these programs are possible in Canada. And of course I knew that I could probably get it funded in Canada, but it wasn't what I wanted. And it just seemed like nobody was recognizing that when I was reaching out for advice. I had people say it's really bold to turn it down and try to get in again, because I just wanted someone to say it's possible. You can turn this down. It's okay. Try again next year. It's okay. Nobody said that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to make this decision by myself, because if I'm listening to everything around me, it's telling me to just go to a Canadian school or just pick up and go without the money, or try to figure it out on the whim. And I was just like, I know myself, and the amount of stress that would have given me to go in, even if I had 1 year's worth of money, but to not know how I would pay the second year, it would have been too much. So I really sat down and I made a decision for myself. And I remember on my graduation day with my family, my mentors, the dean of my faculty, we had a lunch and we sat down and I said, everybody, I have an announcement. And they're like, what is it? And I was like, I've decided I'm withdrawing from Oxford and I'm going to reapply again next year. And I am going to apply to both Oxford and Cambridge, and this time 1 year programs, so it cuts my cost in half. And I'm going to specialize in education and I'm going to get funding. And everyone looked around at me and they were like, okay, we're proud of you. You made your decision and you know what you want. And that's what mattered to me at that moment in time, that those people in that room right there and my friends, my lifeline, they held me down and they said, Narosha, if this is what you want, you're gonna get it next year. And so despite everything I was hearing around me, I said, I'm gonna have to withdraw. And so I emailed Oxford, one of the hardest things I had to do in my life, to say, Dear University of Oxford, I would like to withdraw my offer of acceptance. Never thought there would be a day when I would get in and turn it down, but it so happened, and I could not guarantee what would happen next, but I was ready to give it my all. No job, no school planned. I'm the kind of person that likes to have my whole life planned out, and for the first time in my life, I had just graduated with a degree and I did not know what was next. So, to hear more about the story and what happens next and how I reapplied and how I worked through that year and secured funding, tune in to the next video, episode 206. Thank you so much for watching and for sharing this space with me. I hope this has, kind of helped or even motivated or inspired people that may be in a similar situation. I know I did not have these stories to relate to or resonate with when I was going through what I was going through. So I really hope that this could be some kind of clutch for others. Please comment, subscribe, like, lots of love, take care, and always big up yourself.